Guess what? I've been reading. The truth is, I'm always reading. I just don't give myself credit for how much I've been reading. So while this is my first reading vlog of the year, I really hope it won't be the last. I have a whole new approach this year. I'm being very laid back with a lot of things. I'm literally going day by day for a lot of things. And so if I do something that I plan to do, great. If it doesn't work out, I am not going to beat myself up about it anymore. So this is going to just be a little kind of rundown of what I've got going on in terms of reading. Um, I will start by mentioning briefly the last couple of book reviews that I did at the end of 2024. Those are actually being posted to YouTube right now. I did them over a couple of days and I just kind of scheduled them. So they'll be connected to this video. But basically, there were a lot of books that I read in 2024 that I don't know that I ever reviewed. There are also some that I read in 2024 that I did review, but I just didn't share it anywhere on like social media or something like that. So the point of that is that for 2024, I didn't meet like the goal that I set, but I really just didn't care after a while because life. So I'm not putting any pressure on me to like do any like goals or anything this year. So if you want to go back and see what I did actually review, in 2024, that's always available on Goodreads. So there's that. Um, the book reviews that I post on YouTube are always going to be like shorts moving forward. And so you can check that as well. But anyway, I guess I'll just start by briefly showing you what those last kind of 4 reviews of 2024 were, and then get into the writing blog. So first up is I believe this was a 4-star review for Smitten with Candy Canes. I enjoy this author, enjoy this series. The next one is Audio Adventures in Audio, 5-star review, very informative. Then The Midnight Library, I believe, was a 5-star. And then the last one is Lovelock, which I also believe was a 5-star review. So those are the 4 things the last 4 things that I believe I reviewed in 2024. Like I said, there's others that I reviewed that I didn't necessarily do a video for. And then vice versa. There are probably books that I read that I just never reviewed, and I'm not going to go back and try to do that now. So, one of the reasons why I'm giving myself a lot of grace this year is because I'm acknowledging the fact that I read more than I give myself credit for. So, let's go ahead and get into it. So, here I am on the floor exercising. Every single morning before I even get out of the bed, I reach over, turn off my alarm. I immediately start listening to an audio devotional. I have a tradition that I started a couple of years ago where I read through the Bible every year. So I listen to that before I even get out of bed. So that's not reading for some people, but it's reading for me. For most of the people who indulge in audiobooks, understand that that's still reading. Then after that, I start to exercise. And what I do is I kind of go back and forth between the Bible app where I'll read a passage, do some exercises, read a passage, do some exercise. And so that's pretty much my morning routine. So if I'm not reading novels or graphic novels or comic books or self-help books, or if I'm not reading something else, I'm at least reading that. And I've never given myself credit for that in the past. So I'm always reading, even if I'm not there. I am looking at myself. Even if I'm not always reading something that I'm reviewing on Goodreads. So just giving myself a little bit of grace and compassion for that. So yeah, every morning I am listening to an audio devotion and then also reading part of another like daily kind of devotional thing. And that's just for me. Other people have different things that are important to them that they do to start their day. But me doing my exercises and my devotional or how I start my day. So I literally start my day every day exercising and reading. So pat myself on the back, not giving myself credit in the past. Now, here I am going for a walk and I've got earbuds in. You can't tell because I'm bundled up. It's freezing outside, but I'm listening to a book, and I believe the book that I'm listening to right now is, yes, it is Built of Secrets. This is a romance by Jimmy Fraser. I've read some of her other stuff. Romance is one of those genres that I've always just kind of struggled with. As I've gotten older, I've been able to appreciate it more, but I have found that there are specific types of romance that I like and specific types of romance that I don't like. I also find that I get not really bored, but I would say maybe I satiate on it quicker than some of the other genres. Like I'll read a good, romance and then maybe read another one and then won't read it for like 2 or 3 months. And that's fine. I accept that about myself. So here I am going for a walk and I am listening to this story about these, two people who knew each other as children, kind of grew up like brother and sister, but they are very much aware of the fact that they're not brother and sister. So here they are as adults and having an opportunity to, you know, I guess explore this part of their lives, where they are. What I like about Jimmy Fraser is that she does stick to some of the typical romance tropes because that's what people in the romance field are looking for. But I think it's really interesting that she goes beyond kind of the whole damsel. She um but apparently it's this thing to where a lot of women in romance stories have like this damsel trope, and so I like the fact that and then there's nothing wrong with that if you like that trope, but I sometimes get annoyed with it. But I like the fact that most of the women in her stories are fully capable. Yes, they have these hunky men that are around them ready to like save the day if they need to, but what I like is that in a lot of her stories they don't necessarily need these men to come and save them. They're usually saving each other, which is, I think, why I like her stories. It's kind of a mutual respect that I feel like she imposes on her characters, and that's me. Everyone has different things that they're interested in reading. I like the fact that a lot of her characters are, I guess you they're traditional, but there's always something that's just a little bit like non-traditional. I think another thing that I struggle with in the romance genre is that a lot of times the people just seem so perfect and that the problems that they have are all based upon like drama. Um, you know, perfectly, 5'9", blonde, blue-eyed woman, her man cheated on her. Okay, why did he cheat on her? Obviously he's dumb. Or the uber smart entrepreneur black woman who can take on the world and her man cheats on her. Like seriously, like why are these the stories that are happening? Anyway, my whole point of saying that is that the women in these stories a lot of time, and even the men sometimes in her stories, they're not like these perfect people. Like they have, health problems. There might be, fighting cancer, or they're trying to, take care of their dead sister's kids or something like that. Like they don't have perfect hair and, perfect bodies, and, they're just I just and again, I'm rambling, but these are some of the struggles that I've had with reading romance in the past, is that it's like these perfect people with just a lot of drama in their lives, where drama happens to everyone. So why can't they just be like ordinary people having drama in their lives? And she finds a way, I feel like, a lot of times of making the characters seem ordinary, even though it doesn't matter what kind of romance I read, the men are always like super muscular, hunky guys. Like every single one of them. And I guess that's just a trope I'm never going to get away from. And that's okay. But so anyway, I'm, as you can see, I'm in my car. That's what I'm listening to in my car. Um so yeah, I have been doing a lot more audio consumption lately, not because I don't want to read. I'm just busy, y'all. I mean, it's life. So I've had to embrace, this idea of audio. Sometimes it's an actual audiobook, and sometimes it's the assistive reader on the Kindle. All right, let's see what's next. Okay, so this is a nice one. I'm getting ready to set up kind of my little reading nook. And so I'm going to explain a little bit about what you're seeing here. So this is my couch. I've got a blanket. There's a plushie here, and you're going to see in just a moment that this is a toothless plushie. And so I know I'm a grown woman, and here I am cuddling with the plushie. I have no shame in that whatsoever. If you have a problem with that, look away. But there is a reason behind it outside of the fact that I've always liked plushies, and I'm not going to stop liking them just because I'm an adult. But it's been really hard for me to get back into like my normal routines, especially with like reading and writing and stuff since the passage of Margie. Margie had all kinds of issues and problems or whatever, but the one of the things that she was really good at was keeping me warm and cuddling next to me when I would be on the couch reading or, working on my computer or something. She would sit next to me and she would be like right there. And I could always like hear her breathing and just have like the rhythm and the heat of her. And it's been really tough for me. And so here I am having some apple chips, which I'll talk about in a moment. So anyway, I noticed that my toothless plushie, and here I am reading The Monkey King in my magnifying glass because the font in this book is extremely small. I know I'm getting old, but it's small, y'all. But anyway, so my toothless is just the right size to cuddle up next to me, kind of like just in my arm. And it kind of takes that place of me missing Margie so much. So I'm not delusional. I know it's not her, but it's a comfort to me. And if that's what I have to do to get through the day, then that's what I'm going to do. I don't care. That's just how it is. So anyway, back to me reading. I'm going to speed through some of this. So basically, I even though I have such, limited time and most of the stuff that I'm reading is audio now, I do make a point to actually read something visual. I miss holding books in my hands, and even with the Kindle, sometimes you'll see later on that there's something that I'm actually like reading on the Kindle and not using the assistive reader. So for this, I'm reading a graphic novel for the Monkey King and the Legends of Wukong. I've always been a fan of Monkey King and Wukong, and so this was something that we got for our holiday. We got it for ourselves. We do that. So anyway, and as I mentioned, I was eating some apple chips. So if you've been following me at all, you know that I have like all kinds of like health issues and dietary restrictions and blah blah blah. But the whole point of me just mentioning that was I don't really get to eat a lot of crunchy foods anymore because most of them, for whatever reason, I can't have them. So I do have a couple of, snacks that I've been able to find that are not necessarily like healthy snacks, but they're safe for me to eat. So that's my distinction a lot of times. It's not necessarily is it healthy, is it safe for me? With that said, I cannot eat potato chips anymore. And I never thought I would miss potato chips until I could not eat them. And so I found this particular brand of apple chips. And what I like about them, aside from being really, crisp and crunchy and they're not fried, they're baked and all that, is that they're not too sweet. So when I want something crunchy that's not salty, I'll have these. So anyway, let's go ahead and get through this. And so I'm reading my Legend of Wukong. All right, let's keep it going. We're gonna just speed through some of this. All right, let's see. All right, so here I am again. Life, I have to load and unload and reload my dishwasher. So I got to do that at some point, but I also want to get my, stories in, get in my words and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to be using the assistive reader on my Kindle right now. The story that I'm always reading multiple stories at once. So if you haven't figured that out, that's just how I roll. I can't just focus on one thing at a time. I don't know why. So the story that I'm listening to while I'm taking care of some domestic things around the house is Wielder's. Is it Wielder's Pride? Wil, why can't I say this word? Wielder's Curse. Oh my goodness. I don't know what my problem is. Prize was the first book. This is the second book. This is a series I started like 2 or 3 years ago. And it was my intention to read the series, much sooner than I currently have. I literally just forgot about it. So I'm picking up on the second book. And so it's a really interesting story. As you can see, there's a ship on the front of it. So it's not like a pirate story exactly, but it is like a maritime type story where they sail, and the main character is this amazing young woman, and she's tied to this ship that she's on. So I don't want to give too much of the story, but like it's very much part of the theme of the whole like story and world, where they go from like port to port and place and all this kind of stuff. And so this is a fantasy series, straight up fantasy. I really like that. There's like magic, and there's people who have magic and people who don't. I really like that in the second book, she's touching on this theme of servitude and slavery, where people who don't have the power will try to enslave these people who do have power. It's a very interesting dynamic. Another thing that's really interesting about this book, and this is just for me as an individual reader, someone else picks this book up, doesn't know anything about the author, this really won't affect them. But for me, because I know that this author is a Christian, I am so impressed with the fact that there's lots of like, of course, noble elements that are in her story. But I feel like Christian writers get a bad rap, and it just drives me crazy. Like, there's nothing in this book that remotely is preachy. So, yeah. So anyway, I feel like Christian writers get a bad rap sometimes. So there are no like Christian elements in this story, but there's also nothing like bad or evil in the story either. Well, there is evil in the story because there's good guys versus. But what I'm saying is, I feel like a lot of times people will not give a Christian writer the time of day, as though they're going to try to somehow trick them, into following their beliefs, and that's so annoying. This book is so good, and I feel like more people should read it, but they won't if they know that she's a Christian, and it's just kind of not cool. So anyway, I know one thing in the first book that was hard for me to read, and again has nothing to do with her being a Christian or anything like that, was there is a certain level of brutality that's part of this story, part of this character's backstory, which I again was very impressive. And I'm just a weakling. Like, it's just, you know, I mean, I think about like all of the action films that I watch. And, if you really look at, fight scenes and like science fiction and stuff like that, um, you know, it's all the kind of the same, but people just pick out different things and say, oh, well, that's really violent, but that's not. Well, actually, they two people died in both of those scenes. So what's different, I'm rambling at this point. Anyway, the whole point of me saying this is that I really like this series, and I don't know why it took me so long to pick it back up. So I'm going to finish this one, and hopefully at some time this year I will also finish the third book. But I know myself, I know that I'm not going to immediately read the third book after reading this one, just because I just know myself. But I've got the third book, so hoping to finish it sometime this year. So again, this is just me um taking care of some stuff at the house. So let's see what is next on the agenda after I am ready to kind of load up my dishwasher and get it going. All right, so here I am. I'm at my dining room table, and oh, okay. So now I'm on my Kindle again, but I'm actually going to be reading. I'm not using assisted reader this time, and so for this one, I'm actually reading a American Sign Language for Kids book. I'm actually familiar with quite a few signs, but I am not fluent in any way whatsoever. It is my ultimate goal to maybe, actually take some ASL classes to become fluent. But right now, I'm just in this process of self-educating myself. I've always been familiar with American Sign Language just because of the kind of the path that I've taken in life. Studying foreign languages in college is where I really first started to get interested in ASL, when it was brought to my attention that that's considered learning another language. And I'm like, wow, yeah. And so anyway, I've always just kind of like tinkered with knowing some basic signs And then when I started working with children, especially children on the spectrum and other special needs children, having another form of communication was important. So I started to incorporate some science there. But again, I've never actually tried to learn sign language. And so that's what I'm doing now. I'm starting with the kids' book. I've already purchased a follow-up American Sign Language book, for adults. I don't know the title right now, but I'll have it. And so here I am just kind of reading along and practicing some of the signs. I figure I would get through this book first, and you know, depending upon like how this experience goes, it'll help me when I eventually go on to the next one. But ultimately, I will have to sign up for like a class to really get into it. But I'm fascinated just having more ways to communicate. I've tried to learn Braille over the years, and it is not easy. I unfortunately think I would probably have to go blind before I would be able to become fluent in Braille. I know that's probably a horrible thing to say, but it would have to be one of those things where I'm learning it because I don't have a choice. Um, anyway, I digress. So here I am, just sitting at my table doing some reading. I like to switch up my locations from time to time. I find that I get very restless. Um, obviously I read more than one thing at a time. I'm trying to cram in words wherever I can. That's why I've shifted a lot of things to like audio consumption, but I do still make a point to actually like read things with my eyeballs. In the morning I'm listening to that devotion, but then I have those times where I actually take it out and like actually read it. And so um for me, reading is important, and I think other people, if they realize the benefits of the reading, it would be just as important to them. Our society places so much emphasis on like audio and visual entertainment that we neglect the tradition of storytelling. All of our stories are now filtered through someone else. It used to be you would sit around a campfire and tell stories. Everyone was a storyteller, but now there's very few storytellers out there. And so anyway, it's just important for me to keep the tradition alive. And so that's what I am doing. So again, I'm gonna breeze through this. I'm getting, towards the end. I would say for 2024, the two reads that stuck out the most to me were The Midnight Library and Lovelock. Probably because Lovelock was the last one that I literally finished it on the last day of 2024. But it was just unexpected. I think that's why it stuck with me, because it was unexpected. But then The Midnight Library, it just the it was hard to read, but like in a good way. It dealt with a lot of emotion, regret and grief and things like that. So yeah, if you want to, check out those reviews, definitely do that. What was something that you read recently that really kind of stuck with you? Um, I would love to know. Right now, like I said, I don't have any challenges set up. I don't have any TBRs set up except for my long running TBR. But like, if you have a recommendation for me, I'm open to it. What do you think about the things that I'm currently reading? Have you heard anything about these things? Are you interested in any of the stuff that I'm reading? You may have a completely, different genre that you're into. Um, so yeah, that's my reading vlog for January. And like I said, I hope it's not the last one. Guys, as always, stay safe, be blessed, keep reading.
Hey, guess what? If you like what you see, you can totally subscribe to this channel. You could also give it a like and leave me a comment. I would totally love that. Okay, bye-bye.